this week the Senate faces a simple choice, and that is about making sure that we keep our commitment to people or letting polluters off the hook. When America drives by refineries or oil and gas wells, they often see flares. Too much flaring wastes a valuable public resource, and venting, which we can't see, is even worse. It wastes the resource and pollutes the air and with methane. It's not really different. This issue, every day, oil and gas companies are getting away with flaring and venting. That is without paying a penny. The oil sector and gas sector is the largest source of methane pollution in this country. And every year the industry wastes $2 billion of natural gas, even though affordable technology exists to capture it. So this week, we can do our job here and keep this rule in place that was issued by the Department of Interior, which saves taxpayers money and keeps our children healthy. Or we can let the polluters off the hook and let them go back to needlessly wasting our natural gas resources to the tune of $300 million a year. So stopping the leaks and venting and flaring conserves our energy resources and protects our clean air, and companies can even sell the captured methane that they are no longer wasting or leaking in the market and provide economic upside. So it would be a huge step backwards to roll back this important rule and out of line with what the American people want. Independent polling shows 81% of Westerners support this rule. The final rule would save 15% of a penny off of each dollar of profit for companies that invest $2 billion every year in oil and gas. So very little cost for doing the right thing. Americans are already doing our part. We do things for emissions, everything from our automobile sectors to various aspects of our homes. So why should the American people continue to make strides to reduce various kinds of pollutions and then let these major polluters off the hook? The choice for my colleagues is clear. We can be good steward of our natural resources, and we can do the right thing by keeping this rule in place. So I want to thank the speakers that are with us today, a rancher from New Mexico and a county commissioner from Colorado. But first, I want to introduce my colleague, Michael Bennet from Colorado, and thank him and his state for their leadership. Michael?
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much for your leadership. It's a great privilege to be here with Maria Cantwell, the ranking member of the Energy Committee, and with my commissioner from La Plata County, Gwen Luckel, who's here today, who represents our state so well. In Colorado, as many of you know, we led the nation in the first rule to regulate methane emissions directly, bringing cleaner air and a thriving economy to our state. This revolution is yet another example. This regulation is yet another example of Washington putting narrow interests ahead of the public good, of putting ideology over facts. We must retain these common sense rules, not only for our environment, but also for taxpayers to receive a fair return on oil and gas resources. Right now, inefficient oil and gas operations on these lands are projected to cost taxpayers $800 million in lost royalties. These are precious resources we couldn't then invest in schools or to build roads or bridges or otherwise use for our communities. We designed these regulations with the environmental community and with industry. Since the time we put these regulations in place, our economy has grown. Oil and gas production in our state has grown. And in fact, Colorado has the lowest unemployment rate of any state in the country. We've also had significant air pollution impacts as a result. While Colorado has decided to regulate this fugitive methane, and I would say with a rule that's even more stringent than the one that's being proposed to be taken away at the federal level, our surrounding states have not. And this means that Colorado, if this rule goes away, could face being a non-attainment state for pollutants that have nothing to do with our state. We're not produced in our state, we're produced someplace else. That's unfair to Colorado, it's unfair to our economy, it's unfair to asthmatic children that live in our state, it's unfair to seniors who expect to have clean air to breathe. We believe we've struck a good balance that became a model for the country. This is a solution in search of a problem. As Senator Cantwell said, when you poll Americans on this question, 81% support the regulation, and that's just because it's common sense. Politicians may not be able to see what's coming out of these, from these oil and gas production facilities, but we certainly know it's there, and that's what this regulation is meant to protect. I can tell you that Colorado, which, as I said, was the first state to support these rules, would feel that our work was not only being disrespected, but that our economy and our health would be threatened if this rule were taken away. And I'm glad to join Senator Cantwell. Very hopeful. It's been a long time. This rule has been a long time coming, because I think the majority has had trouble finding a majority to support the rule, because they know how much the public supports the existing rule. I'm sorry that at this late date they're attempting to change it, but we still have time to stop it. I hope people will let their senators know. With that, I will get out of the way.
My name is Gwen Lackolt. I'm a county commissioner from La Plata County, Colorado. This rule is very important to my county because we live under the largest methane cloud in the entire country, thanks to over 35,000 wells that are just across the state line from us in New Mexico. Yes, Colorado has a really strong rule, and that's great for Colorado, but that rule in Colorado is absolutely meaningless for my county, because with 35,000 oil and gas wells across the state line, primarily on public lands, and in a state, New Mexico, that does not have a corresponding state rule, we need the BLM methane rule. It's very critical for us, not just for our air quality. That's just one piece of the puzzle. We have long held that gas that stays in the pipeline that doesn't leak into the air is money in the bank. It's money in the bank for oil and gas operators. And importantly, for wells on public lands, that's money in the bank for the American taxpayer. And we're seeing really strong numbers. In fact, since the methane rule was put into place in December, we have 300 more rigs out there drilling for oil and gas than we had when the rule was put into place. We're seeing more rigs, we're seeing more oil and gas development, we're seeing more jobs, not just oil and gas drilling jobs, we're also seeing jobs in the methane mitigation industry. This is a great rule. It's very critical for my community and the people who live in my county. And I urge the Senate to hold on to this rule and to keep this rule. Thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce Mr. Don Schreiber from New Mexico.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your work. Thank you, Commissioner Lackolt. I'm not going to talk about data. There is a mountain of data out there, and from the beginning it's been incontrovertible. We have every economic reason to support the BLM Methane Rule, which Commissioner Lackolt and I worked for almost 3 years on to put in place. So a very well-considered rule, and I can guarantee you that industry had a #1 seat at that table. So the rule that was finished was done with industry cooperation. That there's a rule that should stand, and it's a rule that I expect my family to be able to live under. I want to talk about what it is if we lose the protections of the BLM Methane Waste Rule, and if we lose them through a Congressional Review Act that we can never get back. That's every living thing is affected by methane and the chemicals that come with it, that are released with it, benzene, toluene, xylene. Those things are part of natural gas. So that when I was last Friday fixing fence with a ranch worker, 440 feet of fence line, downwind from a natural gas well, that methane washed down on us for the whole time we were there. We can't come back another day, we have to do it that day. Cattle are coming. I have a ranch hand that I can work with. I can't come back when the wind's blowing a different time. I have other things that I have to do. So that methane exposure is present to us at all times. When we don't smell it, of the 122 active gas wells that surround our ranch, either on our deeded property or the federal property immediately adjoining us, when I don't smell it, I can hear it. And I know what it is because when the well blows its waste out through methane pressure from below, that roaring sound like a jet engine, I know is propelled by methane coming to the surface. So that I brought, for you members of the press, a few pictures of the living things that are on our ranch and my family farm in southern Colorado. I'd like to give you those so that you can see that it's not just humans that are affected by this. Every living thing is affected by methane and the chemicals that come with it. So that the protections that are provided now are critical to us, and I am speaking directly to Senator Gardner right now, who does not have a leaking, venting, or flaring gas well on his property. It is morally outrageous for people disconnected from the land to remove those protections for me, my family, and American farmers and ranchers across the West.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Hi, Senator Cantwell, Kelly Lunny from E&E News. I know that Secretary Zinke had reassured Senator Portman that if the rule was repealed, that he would do what he could to continue to reduce methane waste, which led Senator Portman to say yesterday that he would support repeal of the rule. Is that something that Secretary Zinke, though, can deliver on, considering the restrictions under the Congressional Review Act when it comes to substantially similar rules?
I think Ohioans should go to the map online that shows the yellow plume on states like the two that they were mentioning and Ohio and call their senator. Because it's very clear from the way CRA works that there is no opportunity to do anything like this in the short term in a new rule. That's the way the CRA works. Yes.
Alan Kowski from Bloomberg BNA. Just curious, procedurally, will you be looking to use the full number of hours available for debate? And I can imagine it gets close to the Congressional Review Act. We're running out of time.
Yes, we'll use all our time.
I have a question for Matthew Daly from AP. Have you tried to lobby Senator Gardner and or Senator Heller? They seem like they're kind of the two undecided, or at least publicly undecided Republicans on this.
I'm sorry, was the question for me?
Gwen,
Whoever wants to talk about it, so
Okay.
particularly from Colorado.
Yes, I have been to Washington now 3 times this year. I was able to meet with Senator Gardner in January, I was able to meet with Senator Gardner in late February, and he told me he was decidedly neutral. And the last 2 times, I was here 2 weeks ago and today, and unfortunately, I'm not able to secure a meeting with the senator. I'm going to continue to try to do that and express to him how important this rule is for my county in Colorado. This is one of his counties. He's been to Durango, and I need him to understand the message that the BLM methane rule is extremely critical for La Plata County because we live under the largest methane cloud in the entire country, and without the BLM methane rule, we continue to have some of the worst air quality in our country. It gives my community a black eye. We depend on tourist dollars to run our economy, and it's critical that we take these very simple measures to start addressing the methane issue. And the BLM methane rule allows us to do that. We did meet with staff from Senator Heller's office today, also urged the senator to consider our reasons for keeping the BLM methane rule. Of course, no commitments, but we will continue to try to communicate with his office over the course of today and tomorrow.
Do you think that Senator Gardner has taken your concerns seriously, or seriously enough?
If I can sit down with him this afternoon, perhaps I could say yes to that question.
I have as well met with Senator Gardner in February when the CRA was first introduced, and his energy staff. Since that time, I've been in constant one-way contact with his office. And again, today was unable to secure a meeting with Senator Gardner to make the point, certainly about my family and the health of American farmers and ranchers in the West, but to point out that it's fairly obvious that the prevailing winds from New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah come to the Colorado Plateau since the history of time. And we airmail methane to the state of Colorado regardless of their rule. It's not EPA air, it's not BLM air, it's not Colorado Oil and Gas Commission air, it's just air. And we are airmailing that methane to Senator Gardner. In addition, Senator Gardner's constituents in southwestern Colorado come every day to the methane. A large number of people work in the Four Corners area, and they come to their job every day exposed without the benefit of the Colorado rule. That's what the methane protection rule from the BLM provides. In addition, they come to recreate and shop. His constituents are not protected by his rule. They are protected by the BLM methane waste rule.
Yes.
Yulia Georgiou from Morning Consult. Would the rollback of the methane rule affect Colorado businesses due to the state rule that's only on that state in the area?
Thank you. The fact that my region is under the largest methane cloud in the entire country does give our region a black eye, and the potential effect on businesses and our economy is very grave. And when we see that other companies across Colorado are able to mitigate their methane emissions, we want the same for our region. My constituents deserve the same protections that the rest of Colorado gets.
I would just add, Commissioner, that not only are we infamous for the methane hotspot, but we're in great jeopardy of overlooking the tremendous opportunity that exists in methane mitigation industry. New Mexico lifetime resident. I grew up in Farmington. I was involved in the oil gas business along with my father for 44 years. And it came to me that everything in the second largest gas field in the continental United States, the San Juan Basin, everything that was in that field was made in Farmington, Aztec, Bloomfield, Durango, and the little surrounding communities there. Not only was it made there, manufactured there, assembled there, much of it was invented there over the 60-year history of the San Juan Basin, the second largest contributor of natural gas in history in the United States. So that there exists, idle now, there exists the capability of developing world leadership. Someone's going to do it. There's going to be a 24% increase in natural gas over the near future as coal subsides. We have the opportunity to take the leadership in southern Colorado, in New Mexico, put that idle factory work and those good workers, talented and dedicated people, to work to be a leader in methane mitigation worldwide. The Koreans are going to do it, the Japanese are going to do it, somebody is going to take that lead. So I would like it to be my friends and neighbors from the Four Corners.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.